Hey guys, Izuku Midoriya here. Go watch my new award-winning short film. And don't forget, go beyond, plus Ultra!
There are stories about every hero, how they became great. Most have one thing in common. Their bodies moved before they had a chance to think.
Whatever it takes to be a hero!
I want to save that little kid!
Young man, you too can become a hero.
What's driving him? Why is he so intense? We watch over him together, Toshinori, until the day that the hero Deku is celebrated around the world as the new symbol of peace.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that this is the story of how I became the world's greatest hero. From now on, Deku is the name of a hero!
Oh yeah, by the way, if you put this video in 2x speed, then you're a loser. Boy oh boy, where do I even start? No really. How do I start a video like this? A video that I feel so passionate about making, with so much to say. For starters, I guess I'll start like I did in the last video I did of this character. Izuku Midoriya, or Deku, is my favorite character of all time. Like, it's not even close, other than a certain lawyer, I guess. His character, his development, themes, his character design, his ideologies, and what he represents all really resonate with me as a person. And he inspires me to be the best version of myself since I really feel like I can relate to him. Especially the fact that he's in my favorite anime with one of the best and well-written stories I've ever experienced. The fact that my favorite anime contains my favorite character is really special. And for some reason, in this world, it is really hard to like this character, since everyone just hates him for some reason. Every time I say that my favorite anime is My Hero Academia or Deku is my favorite character, I get judged, like I just said something really bad or cringe. And, you know, from a certain standpoint, I get it. The fandom was really weird the last decade, but they just don't give it a chance because of the outer layer of that fandom. And I do everything in my power to defend Deku and MHA, but I never really say everything, you know? So that's what we're gonna do today. Originally, this was supposed to be a video on all of Deku's costumes and also an analysis on his power growth. So that's what it's gonna be, all three. We'll do an analysis on Deku and his character, talk about criticisms and controversies, and then analyze his suit and power evolution. So let's start by doing what most people don't do and actually watch the show and pay attention. Here, I'll do it for you. So then we can get into the nitty-gritty later.
And take a swan dive off the roof of the building.
We're in an established world where 80% of the world's population has some sort of superpower. To keep people in check, superheroes populate every nation that many people look up to. One of these heroes is All Might, the #1 unstoppable hero that's been perfect at saving people for almost 40 years. His legacy is something of legend. Something of note that many people don't realize is that My Hero Academia is actually sort of a critique of the superhero genre, to the likes of shows like The Boys and Of course, not in the spiteful way of The Boys or the brutal way of Invincible, but more of an optimistic critique, because it's as much of a celebration of the genre as it is a critique. The roles and titles of heroes and villains are embraced, shown as differences rather than positions. Kohei Horikoshi, the author, has made it prevalent that he takes a lot of inspiration from famous superhero stories like in Marvel and DC. This shows in a lot of his character work and art. We are introduced to Izuku Midoriya, a 14-year-old middle schooler, who we see as definitely a fanboy of these giant pillars of heroes. It's obvious that his main goal is to become a great one.
He's a crybaby.
It's obvious
He's a crybaby.
It's obvious that his main goal is to become a great one himself.
He's a crybaby. All he does is cry. He's a crybaby.
God, I can't even get through the intro without addressing the elephant in the room. One of the biggest critiques towards Deku is that he's a crybaby. Now, I will admit, he does cry a lot. I can admit that. But let's go in depth into why he's built like this. Though there are some deep-rooted societal reasons into why this is so prevalent to a lot of people, but we'll get to that later in the video. Izuku Midoriya is a protagonist in high school Japanese shonen manga. He follows a lot of the basic formulas that a lot of shonen protagonists fall victim to. However, that doesn't make him not stand out. He has a big dream in a high school setting, he's powerful but kind and charming, having an effect on the characters around him. He's also funny and relatable. In the beginning of the story, he is especially whimsical wimpy and cries a lot. This is to set expectations for him, to make him feel powerless and hopeless compared to his big dream, to make it seem unachievable. You almost want to write him off with how pathetic and useless he feels. You want to see him try to achieve this dream. At least I did. Actually, in the first few episodes, I didn't really have much of an opinion on him. It's only during the runtime of the show in its entirety that I really started to love the character. Honestly, he's barely wimpy. He's more awkward, like an awkward teenager, which he is. A lot of people say that Deku went from zero to hero, which in the grand scheme of things is true, but he was never at zero. He was always a hero, with the drive and ambition he held in his heart. He was more of a hero than most people. Another reason of why he's so wimpy is because of the audience a lot of shonen manga is pointed to. The majority of the audience of shonen manga is nerdy, wimpy, dorky, high school Japanese boys. And to sell the story and to sell copies, shonen authors write a protagonist that these boys can see themselves in and relate to. It's just kind of how writing works over there. In fact, it's kind of just how writing works everywhere. Horikoshi wanted to make a character that shy, timid people could relate to. Like I said, he's awkward. He gives a representation to socially awkward people out there, which is really a lot of people who watch anime. Young, socially awkward teenagers. Similarly to Okarun and Dandadan, Okarun is shy and timid for people to relate to him. However, you don't see him getting as much hate. Maybe this is because of the priorities audiences have. We'll get to that later. And he's not even that much of a wimp all the time, if you actually watch the show. He kinda just acts like a normal kid. The crying bit. The actual reason is just how some authors write in Japan. If you haven't noticed a lot in anime, crying is a lot more prevalent than in some shows. This is to show emotion. But not just sadness or fear, but also happiness or relief. It's called expression. Expression in drawing. The crying shows the weight of how the character feels in the moment, to the most extreme amount. However, in a lot of anime, crying is used as a gag or comedic effect, like Zenitsu in Demon Slayer, which is, for the most part, a gag character, which a lot of people think is also annoying, but Zenitsu's cries are mostly played for laughs, and I thought it was funny. However, Zenitsu cries, complaining, showing he can't do anything, such as complaining about going into the mansion because he's scared, while Deku cries as an emotion as a result of being overwhelmed, like how he cries when he's told he can't do something, or crying out of fear in a dangerous situation he's already in. This is just how the author chose to express Izuku's emotions. In Izuku's case, it's to show who his character is, and how determined he is to achieve his dream, while showing his true feelings on the outside. However, even as Deku's #1 fan, I can actually understand how his frequent crying can get annoying throughout the show. But this is to establish this behavior early on, to juxtapose his behavior later on in the show, and show his growth and maturity. Not to mention to show how young he is. I mean, my god, he's only 14 in the beginning of the show going through all of this stuff. In his defense, he actually has some good excuses for crying throughout the show. Actually, let's go through all of Season 1, thanks to this video. Let's count him down. He's a child getting beat up. He's a child grasping onto the fact that he can never achieve his dream. God, I gotta say this flashback is shown way too much. I get its significance, but goddamn. He's being attacked, as a 14-year-old, in a really terrifying way, realizing he might die. Overwhelmed with emotion, not really knowing what he's doing. After years of being told he can't achieve his dream, he is told it's possible by a living legend and his #1 idol he looks up to. Gag. The weight of the reality of the situation daunting on him, actually wiping away tears to appear stronger. Gag. Pure exhaustion and determination, pouring his heart out. Probably doesn't even know what he's saying right now. Exhaustion, gratefulness, disbelief, thankfulness. His dreams are really coming true. Fear of a giant goddamn robot coming after him. Like seriously, what were they throwing at these kids? Gag. Pain of arms and legs being broken and burnt. Fear of death and disappointment. Fear of all the work being for nothing and not being good enough to pass the entrance exam. After being given the chance to achieve his dreams, the fear of them being taken away all over again comes back. Relief. Gag. Pain. Swell of emotion and standing up to his bully. Fear of his mentor being killed and the symbol of peace being ripped to shreds. Relief. You know, showing he's sympathetic and cares. Wait, this is all really just Season 1? Wow, I guess he really does cry a lot. But it's a defining character trait that makes him stand out a bit more. He might be wimpy and a bit annoying, but you just can't get him out of your mind. You just can't ignore his determination. You can see his potential early on. Like I said, sometimes it's just to show how much he cares, to make him seem nicer and friendlier. You know, how a hero should be. To show how hard he tries to achieve his dream, to put others before himself, to be a symbol to keep people safe. I'll get back to the deeper rooted stuff later. Let's actually get back to the Season 1 layout. After a cute and charming yet tragic intro to the character of Izuku Midoriya, We get to see some of the obstacles in his life, including Katsuki Bakugo, an amazing foil to Izuku. I'll be honest, I won't be covering Bakugo a lot in this. Their dynamic is amazing and complicated, but it's mostly kind of a Bakugo thing. I'm also not a Bakugo expert, I'm a Deku expert. Moving on. We see this poor guy just wants to be of service, to help people, to have the coolest job in the world, but he has no power to do so. This takes a toll on his self-worth and self-esteem. When all hope feels lost, when he can't achieve his dream, he has a 1 in a million chance encounter with the symbol of peace himself, the powerhouse that is All Might. Izuku asks his idol if he could ever become someone like him. All Might says he can't. In a world where only if you have power, you can make a difference, Izuku is told he cannot help people, despite his willingness to. Fast forward to a villain attack that overwhelms every hero nearby. The event that jumpstarts the story occurs. With no power in a dangerous situation, Izuku jumps to save his bully, not for any reason like to one-up him, but because he is an innocent person in a troubling situation. Even in a dangerous situation with heroes around that don't want to get hurt, a bystander puts himself in harm's way to save a person's life. That day, Izuku showed every person there that even though he is a powerless civilian, he has the heart of a true hero. This makes All Might realize he was wrong, and realize the potential in this young boy. He chooses this weak middle schooler with a self-sacrificing heart to be his successor to his power. Imagine wanting to achieve a dream, but told you could never become what you desire. But the person you look up to the most, the greatest to ever live, stands in front of you, telling that you can achieve your dream, despite all the hardships you face, that he's choosing you to be his successor out of everyone. I should also mention, Izuku mentions that this is the story of how he became the world's greatest hero. Now, number 1, greatest. This is important. Remember this. But why? Why him, out of everyone? Because he is recognized for his self-sacrifice, and earned it over the span of 10 months of harsh training. The rest of the season is fairly simple. He needs to be in superhero shape to be pit against the rest of the story, so there's training. Potential setbacks, but being saved at the last minute because of Izuku's heroic action. But we learn that Izuku's motivations aren't just to be any hero, but to be the greatest hero to ever live. Not for money or fame, but to keep people safe, to be a hero people can rely on, to inspire others like All Might does. He wants to go down in history by putting himself at risk. Over the course of the season, we see people doubt Izuku, waiting for him to fail. But against all odds, using the situation he is in and adapting, he shows he's capable of more. And that's just so cool! Alright, one thing I think is important to the reason why I love this character so much is that his power progression is just genius. Obviously, if given the straight power of the strongest hero in the world straight away, Izuku would be unstoppable right away. And that's writing yourself into a hole. So what Horikoshi does is make the power almost unusable to him at first. He needs to use it in select situations and select time. One for all, a power passed down for generations, with Izuku being the 9th wielder, as it gets stronger every time it gets passed down. So Izuku is overloaded with power every time he uses it. Since Izuku looks up to All Might so much, he mimics his attack style at first, which makes sense for the character. But since he has so much time to learn the power, it gives him time to make the power his own over the course of the story. So in this first season, he uses One for All at 100% in his legs to help him jump high, and his arms to create a giant punch, yelling smash. Kudos to the Hulk. Since this is such a high amount of power, it breaks and fries whatever body part he uses it on, causing a great pain and putting that limb out of commission, essentially nerfing him at the start of the series. However, Izuku is a master strategist, studying heroes for his whole life. He learns to manage this great power by channeling it into his fingers when he flicks, not to make his arm out of commission. This is already such a genius and such creative way to make him progress his power, and it's so much better than most of the stuff in other anime. It's always so complicated and all over the place. I love One for All because it's simple and cohesive. It's easy to keep track of. Alright, it's design time! First we'll talk about his base character design. He's got a pretty basic character design standing at 5'5", big expressive eyes, with nerdy, iconic freckles, a big green bush of curly hair shaded with black. Something I love about Horikoshi's style is that it's so blocky. Izuku has a very blocky aesthetic to him, especially in the manga. His shades of green were always so appealing to me, especially when it comes to meshing with his costume. More on that later. But overall, he's just simple. It's a nice, simple character design. His high-pitched voice is absolutely iconic. I watch dub, and Justin Briner gives such a dorky yet kind approach to the character. It's not an exaggeration to say that he is perfect for the character. He makes the character feel youthful, expressive, funny, and whimsically heroic. I don't watch sub, but from what I've heard, that voice actor also does a phenomenal job. And for our first costume, it's Costume Alpha! We start out with a bright teal tracksuit, with thick white lining throughout. Black knee and elbow pads that do great to block out the design with some contrast. A red utility belt to divide the costume, with Izuku's signature red shoes. 2 big Sonic-like white gloves, a mask to replicate All Might, with 2 big points with a heroic smile, that wind up looking more like a bunny. Some things of note is the line down the middle where the zipper would be, but also showing how symmetrical the design is. And also Izuku's mom made it for him. How sweet. Now, this design gets really hated on a lot. It's bright and dorky, but personally, I love it. It takes inspiration from bright, iconic superhero costumes of all ages, but also Horikoshi's practical touch. This costume serves as a base for the future suits to come. I love the plastic respirator that is strapped onto his head. I love when it rips, playing homage to countless superhero battle damaged looks out there. Again, so many people hate this costume, thinking it's goofy and stupid looking. Cringe, a lot of people say. God forbid a boy gets a little cute and whimsical. I mean, literally look at some of the other costumes in this show. I don't want to hear it. I think it's cute, and frankly, I wish he wore it more. Look, I even got the Figma figure of it. I wish I had the mask version, so I made a clay figure of it. It's one of my best. I'm placing it number 8 on the list. Next costume of this season is the USJ suit. Yeah, it's whatever. It's just suit Alpha without all the cool stuff. With the UA gym uniform thrown on there. Honestly, I just wish they fixed up costume Alpha so we could wear it again in this arc. But whatever. That Dookie last.
Are you really All Might's secret love child or something?
Am I... What?
It's not ridiculous to say that the UA Sports Festival is one of the best arcs in the show. It takes a generic shonen arc trope and plays it to the max. However, as the main character, Izuku shines a lot. When watching the show at first, what made him really shine was the situation he was in. He's playing up against super-powered people, while he can barely use his own. He's kicking ass while being powerless. He outmaneuvers and outsmarts so many people with his wits during the first few seasons. It's genuinely impressive. That's the thing. He never fails to impress me. Everyone around him doubts his skill, writes him off, but somehow he comes out on top. His determination contagious, always wowing and surprising everyone around him. This is because how well Horikoshi writes the story, the setup and how Izuku manages to overcome the situation, how he takes first place in the obstacle course without using his quirk once.
Oh, come on! You gotta admit this is cool!
A lot of times in the fanbase, Izuku is portrayed as a dorky high school boy, which is true, but people also portray him as a little cinnamon roll femboy, which is really funny since in the show he's kind of mentally insane. Like as the show progresses, he really is a monster. This is another reason why I love this character. The dorky kid contrasts who he is when he fights. He really gets into it, damaging himself in the process. This kid is a menace. This is especially prevalent in the battle versus Shoto Todoroki, which in my opinion is the best fight in the entire story, with stellar animation, with moves that will have you on the edge of your seat, with emotion and backstory that gets you emotional. It's jaw-dropping when you realize that Izuku isn't actually fighting to win, but he's fighting to try to help Shoto overcome what he's going through, to get him to fight at his full power. Izuku's kindness, his compassion and empathy even shine in the heat of battle. It's truly inspiring. When Yusei Run starts to play as they give it their all, and the best animation in the whole show starts to show, it has you jumping in your seat. It's also prevalent how much Izuku inspires the people around him here, especially Ochako. After the sports festival, Izuku chooses his hero name. During the runtime so far, Bakugo calls Izuku a name to make fun of him. Deku. There's some Japanese language lore behind it, something about how it's part of his name spelt wrong, but also sounds like a word that means useless. I don't know, look it up, it's trivia. But Izuku states that Deku is the name of a hero, and that he's the Deku who always does his best. He always does his best. He always tries his hardest no matter what happens to him. That's what makes him admirable. He takes this name that he was given to poke fun at him, and reforms it into his hero name. When I was watching for the first time, I always wondered what he was gonna pick. And when he went up there, showing off a name that was negative to him for so long, and making it something positive, it all made sense. Deku, to me, is a catchy name for a great hero. Next is the hero killer arc. Deku doesn't do too much here. Most of that will be covered in the power development segment. But the hero killer Stain's ideologies are important to cover here. He believes that the meaning of the word hero has been rotten. Heroes are all about fame and glory. Heroes aren't about saving people anymore. This connects with the core message of My Hero Academia, and the reason why Deku is special. All Might and now Deku are kind of the only heroes who save people, not for the fame and glory. They just want to keep people safe using their power. Stain's arc addresses this. The final exam arc doesn't have too much going on. More development with Deku and Bakugo's rivalry. His low self-esteem clashes with Bakugo's hot-headed, stubborn cockiness. Other than that, that's all for Season 2. As for power development, Deku increases in skill tenfold. During the sports festival, he damages himself until he has to get surgery, and scars appear. It's brutal, and frankly hard to watch as his limbs turn purple. But when he meets Gran Torino, he starts to get ideas on how to control One For All. He starts by realizing he can channel less than 100% in his limbs. He tries 5% in each limb, but it's hard to manage. Scaling One For All as a power percentage is such a good visualization for how much Deku can use. Eventually, he realizes he can spread One For All throughout his body, making it into a powered state where he has super strength throughout his body. Full cowl. I love the teal lightning flashing around him to show the energy bursting out of him. This is such a creative way to level him up. After a season and a half, he can finally properly use his power without hurting himself. It feels so incredibly earned, and watching his growth is so satisfying. He couldn't use his power right away, and he had to earn it over time, and that's so much more interesting. And mind you, he's only had the power for a good few months now. If Deku's power growth is anything, it's rewarding. And it's costume analysis time! This time we got Costume Beta. What an upgrade. Turning the bright teal into a darker, more muted teal, and the white stripes now into black. Stripes now wrapping around his bicep, giving him leg braces with new gloves with blue stripes, changing the white colored gloves to a more cream color, adding more of the cream color to some trapezoid pads. His respirator now heavy-duty metal, with his mask acting as a cape or hoodie. Kind of like how in every superhero movie, how they always have a mask but never wear it. The darker colors serve such a better look overall. It makes it look more like an actual hero costume rather than a cosplay. It looks just more tough. The blue or teal meshes so well with the green of Deku's hair. All of the colors combined just look so visually appealing and blend so well together. It's such a distinct color palette. Teal, green, black, cream, red, blue. I've never really seen it anywhere before. A few misconceptions that I've seen people make to the suit, and even the anime does this. The stripes on him are thick and blocky, not thin little lines. And the respirator is sharp and angular, not this wide, fat thing. Also, the green on Deku's suit is actually teal, or at least I like it more of a bluer hue. I like my Deku bluer, bruh. I've been waiting to make that joke since that meme came out, alright? Leave me alone. Overall, such a good suit. And the best part is, it only gets better from here. I'm putting it at 9, just because of how better the others are.
Kachan, 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 kachan. Kachan, 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 kachan.
Season 3 takes the class to train their quirks to the max. The villains attack the camp they're training at. We get one of the most brutal fights in the show, but also one of the best. Deku versus Muscular. Deku gives it all he has, almost dying. The music, the emotional swell, the intensity of it all. Deku apologizing to his mother. It's scary, it's emotional, but Deku overcomes it with One For All, 1,000,000%. Not a real thing, it's just an exaggeration, by the way. It's raw, it's brutal, it's inspiring. As Deku shows Koda, a boy who hates heroes, why they sacrifice themselves to save others. After the battle of All Might vs All For One, the spotlight suddenly is on Deku. All Might's reign is done. After a bone-chilling message that only Deku can understand, Deku realizes that it's his turn to carry on the legacy of All Might, to carry the burden of One For All, to continue doing good for the world for him. All Might is done, so now it's Deku's turn to become the symbol. What unimaginable expectations for a kid. Then there's the license exam. Not much going on here, other than Deku kind of getting sexually assaulted, but he gets to show off his power. However, Deku vs Bakugo round 2 afterwards shows his growth as a person. Of course, this is kind of a Bakugo thing, but still. What Deku says in this fight really shows why he's great. How they both look up to All Might. How Bakugo is actually the person Deku looked up to since he was in his life. How Deku imitates Bakugo at times. It shows that Deku isn't just a wimpy punching bag anymore. He's not what so many people think he is. He's so much more than that. As for the power check-in, he's now raised it to 8 20%. Personally, like, we can do more than that. But he also gained the shoot style moveset. The moment and episode this came to him felt so satisfying to watch him realize this. It's definitely the highlight of season 3. Seeing how far he's come since season 1, making his power his own. Alright, costume analysis time. This time we got Costume Gamma. Love the name. Actually, there's technically a suit right before. It's this mid-arm brace suit without the iron soles. Whatever. Not too much has changed. The arm braces do a great job at replacing those clunky gloves. A nice evolution from them too. And the iron soles are such a great cool function to the suit, adding weight to Deku. A punch to each kick. It's not completely covering those iconic shoes either. I love how smoke comes out of them when he uses them sometimes. Again, definitely an upgrade, and makes the whole look so much sleeker.
Choke on my smoke!
I'm combining these two seasons because they're a lot less Deku focused. He's still the main character, but the world has become bigger now. In the overhaul arc, we follow Deku wanting to achieve his dream at least the first time here, saving a girl from a dangerous situation. And in the end, he does. He turns fate in his direction against all odds. Mirio throws things into question if Deku really deserved One for All, but I think by the end of the series, Deku is definitely the right pick. His raw tactical skill and strategizing, with the self-sacrificing nature of his, is really what the My Hero Academia world needed, especially when it comes to the future of that world with everything with Shigaraki, and especially with the reasons why Deku was the perfect pick laid out at the end of the series. The fight with Gentle Criminal puts up a mirror to Deku, and asks what he could have become if his circumstances were different. I love when this happens to Deku, especially with Shinso in Season 2, where people who have a similar dream as him have conflict with him, and how Deku has to deal with the fact that he has the privilege to be taken all the way to the top. Season 5 follows Deku really just learning to level up his new power and speed. He quite literally learns from the best, and man, knowing what I know at the end of the series, this line really hits hard.
At the time, not knowing what the future held, all I could think was, I hope we can have a fun Christmas party next year too.
Alright, by the end of Season 5 he's at 15%? 20%? 30%? I honestly don't remember. A slow creep up as he gets ready to fight bigger battles. I will say, seeing him at 100% full cowling was definitely a satisfying preview. And Air Force is such a cool add-on too, making him be able to have a ranged attack, not to mention the cool effect with the Air Force gloves. And that's pretty much it. Oh right, how could I forget? As I was watching the show for the first time, I was loving every upgrade Deku got for his powers, as he increasingly got more and more powerful as the story went on. But by the end of Season 4, I was like, I wonder what they're gonna do next. And then I got spoiled that he eventually receives the powers of the previous users over time. And I was like, that makes so much sense. Now from here on out, the midpoint of the story, Deku's power evolution takes quite the turn. It's less of percentage or gear he receives, but what power is going to show up next. This is also where Deku starts to go from cool, powerful hero to, oh my god, One for All could rule the world. I wouldn't be surprised if the joint training arc was set up to make Black Whip feel even more out of nowhere. We're just in this normal training exercise and then what the hell is that? Yeah, I think Horikoshi just wanted Deku to be like Spider-Man. If I could have any quirk in the MHA verse, it's Black Whip. No question. Black Whip is the most versatile, dynamic power in the entire show. It is actually so cool. I won't lie, this is where Deku's power growth kind of lost me a little bit. It just didn't feel like the old days, you know? Maybe it was just the drastic turn that it took. However, I really liked the inclusion of Black Whip. It felt big and grand. It felt like a power that Deku had to earn, and it was. It took Deku a whole season to learn to use that power, and since Season 5 happens over a few months, it feels like it took him some time to learn. We didn't have to see every step of the way like we've seen it before. And now, costume analysis time! This time, my favorite, and one of my favorite costume designs I have ever seen. Deku's Costume Delta. Bear with me. I'm going to fully reset and really delve deep into this costume. For some reason, this costume is perfectly visually appealing to me. Whether that because of its predecessors and the evolution before it leading up to it, or strictly because of its colors, design, and aesthetics. However, to me, this is Deku's prime and peak look. Since I consider the Black Whip Awakening and the Paranormal Liberation arc turning points of the story. Deku wears this when he is both at his most stable and strongest. His costume has been leading up to this one, so every part has a story. Let's go layer by layer. Our first layer is a full body tracksuit colored in deliciously deep, dark, saturated teal. This color is so unused, I have associated it with Deku. It's not too green, but not blue enough to be blue. It is a teal that differentiates itself from Deku's more green colored hair. We have a visible line down the middle that's a zipper. This psychologically shows the symmetry, but also has something to show in the front of the suit. Not to mention it perfectly fits around Deku's boxier build, showing each part of his body as squarish. The line design is the perfect amount of design to be put around the suit. It's almost similar to the classic MCU lines given on every suit, but it's not over-designed in this case. It's the right amount to not make the blank teal feel like nothing's going on, especially with the two box angles. They go perfectly with the previously mentioned boxy aesthetic Deku already has going on. It remains consistent and highlights other parts of the design all over, not as a thin little line, but as a thick and defined stripe. The leg braces are easily the most boring part of the design, a regular black, but every piece is quick cut and gets to the point. Different angles and shapes that are trademark all over the costume appear, and go well with Deku's aesthetic. Gold buttons show almost like hinges for his knee, but also serve to spread a certain color in the palette around the whole design. With Deku's new leg fighting style, these make him feel less like he's wearing a costume and more like armor. It makes him feel tactile and ready for battle. Not to mention they kind of look like thigh highs. Previously, Deku wore his trademark red shoes that worked well with other parts of his design. However, with an upgrade such as the iron soles serving an important function such as kick attacks covered up but not entirely. When the iron soles came kicking into action, they felt heavy duty with an important function. It gave Deku weight. With ridges and holes all over, with those gold buttons to add even more great detail. And in some illustrations, even more gold, which looks even cooler. With these shoes, it's important to acknowledge Deku's proportions. He has a big head, big hands, and big feet. Not too different from a Sonic character. It makes him look youthful and cartoony, but not too much so it makes him look like a young man. It highlights the important parts of his character design, going up to the arms with a cream color, making a contrast that I consider to be unseen anywhere else with the teal. We have the arm braces. They are an extension of the costume beta gloves, having the function of protecting his arm, even though they are almost always broken through. They have a cuff at the bicep with a plate sticking out, with two deep blue stripes highlighting it. Beautiful linear composition, with a gold button for consistency, maybe also to serve as a joint. It fits very slimly against Deku's forearm and into Deku's Air Force gloves, which I consider costume design perfection. We start off with the same cream colored glove, but to give them a little weight and differentiation, we put the teal color on the palm side. This looks beautiful and an amazing use of color. The teal and cream seriously look amazing together in this way. The shape of the glove is very angular too, giving each finger a more glove feel. I've seen Horikoshi use this in other designs, but to give the upper side something to do, he put on these gold knuckle tabs that add so much to the design, with black tabs and wires leading to the soon-to-be mentioned gauntlets. These add each finger and knuckle individuality, along with the fingers. The gauntlets fit perfectly right behind over the glove. Not too gargantuan, but a perfect tactical look, with functions on the inside that look like a gear, with several layers making them look like they're capable of something. A little indent by the hand side to add variety. The gold buttons make a great look to imply the function of movement, especially with the small sliver underneath, with the cut-in theme being used on the forearm end of the gauntlet, and finally a blue stripe added to complete the look. Sometimes it's on the top layer showing a cream layer below, sometimes it's on both, as a solid blue. Just these gloves themselves, the color in each design element, all blending beautifully together. I've seen so many people portray some of these things as backwards, or making the gold tabs really small, or gauntlets too small or big. Not to discredit any of these creators, but there's such a specific size to everything, to make it look good. In my opinion, the gloves are perfect in the manga, where everything looks boxy and cartoonish. Putting the gloves onto the rest of the costume is pure heaven. It all meshes so well, not over-designed. Cream trapezoid patches that look like pillows added a needed amount more of the cream color, along with the respirator that looks to be metal with some of the black to have a tactical militaristic look, and a simple red utility belt with a black buckle to separate the top and bottom halves of the costume. Overall, the teal, cream, black, blue, red, silver, gold color palette is so unique and every color is used in the perfect place. Every part of the suit has a function with a boxy shape aesthetic that all goes great with Deku's face and hair color and shape. It all gives him a colorful yet tactical feel for a hero, so distinct, creative, and iconic. And I even made clay figures of this design. I I don't know about these. Oh, I did make Air Force Glove. And I did get the amazing Yamaguchi figure that I know is technically Costume Gamma, but I got these custom Air Force Glove pieces just for the figure. It's one of my favorite figures I have, and first anime figure actually. But seeing the suit get assembled over 5 seasons, loving the color palette, drawing it so many times over, this costume means so much to me. It's a part of the reason why Deku is my favorite character. It's simple yet so effective. I love being so picky and pedantic about the costume, always knowing the right color or design that's supposed to be used. Whew. Oh yeah, I should probably talk about the movies. In my personal opinion, they're canon, but like, not really. Actually, they're more not canon. Here's the thing about the movies. I don't really like them. They're kind of just okay. First one is passable, second one is fun, I guess. Oh, right. How could I forget? Silly me again. They just put a scrapped ending in the second movie. No big deal. Yeah, it's not like it's one of my favorite fights in fiction or anything. This fight is just so batshit crazy, but also so emotional. It's Deku willing to give up on his dreams just to save the day, which isn't so crazy anymore. The end fight is just so out of nowhere and so overwhelming. Honestly, almost made me cry. Might You is one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard, especially with the significance and the animation. When I was showing My Hero Academia to my friend, I only made him watch the second movie, and we actually quote,
God, John, I've got a crazy idea.
So much. 3 is alright. 4 is actually pretty good. Costume-wise, it's so tragic that the stealth suit had like 1 minute of screen time. Never forget what they took from us. Go straight to number 4. But still, it's just ridiculous that if it's canon, they just never bring it up again, and he's just able to use 100% randomly like that. Anyway, movies of an anime being canon is a subject that I could go further on. I don't really feel like it in this video. If you want my opinion on anime movies, don't leave a comment on this video, but instead, send me an email and I will definitely respond. Anyway, how do you guys feel about sending high schoolers to go to war with terrorists? This is where the story gets juicy. This season is just nuts to butts hands. What Season 5 was building up to the whole time, we go straight into a war. Tomura Shigaraki, an upcoming pupil and new wielder of All for One, the symbol of destruction, has been shown to be a dangerous threat to all heroes. As a raid goes south, for a lack of better words, shit starts to go down. In a fight with Endeavor, Deku hears over the comms Shigaraki mentioning One for All, which makes things get real quick. Eventually, Deku and Shigaraki come into contact. The battle between them and the rest of the heroes is tense. Shigaraki is a formidable villain, one of the strongest seen in decades. With Deku's self-sacrificing nature, he takes the battle into his own hands, saving everyone and unlocking 2 of the other quirks along the way, showing that One for All in his hands stands up to the likes of top heroes. My most anticipated fight in the whole show when I was first watching, and it looks okay. Acceptable. The animation could be better. It was frustrating watching it, because in the manga it looks so cool. I'll give the adaptation credit. There's a lot happening during this fight, a lot of points to make, a lot of dialogue. I just thought it would have been treated as a bigger moment in the show. When reading the manga, I thought they were swirling around constantly, hitting each other like a paddleball, but the anime chose to make them just stiffly float. The whole fight feels so stiff. I just wish the anime took more liberty. It's disappointing that it's just fine. At least they did Dabi Stan's justice. Anyway, we start to think back to how far Deku's come, but almost also like how far he's fallen. Deku's self-sacrificing character trait is called out in a flashback, fully acknowledging how he doesn't think much of himself, how he's ready to put his life at risk, and how that's a very concerning thing. This all comes to a crescendo, at a peak of Deku and Bakugo's arc, where Bakugo sacrifices himself for Deku. This reminds the audience something, that Deku's actions, because of the person he is, changes the people around him, even the most aggressive. Most of this arc, reasonably so, Deku sits it out after his big battle, but once he wakes up, he still is able to do stuff, even with none of his limbs able to work. He is literally on the ground, not able to move, saying how he doesn't want to be useless, and you guys are calling him a wimpy crybaby. He's doing more than any of you would ever do. I think one of the coolest things he's done in his arc is that after Shigaraki is running away, all of the heroes are beaten down. Deku, the only one left standing, uses Black Whip Froppy style, with still no working limbs by the way, to catch up to Shigaraki and still try to stop him when he's clearly won. He even tells All for One himself to shut up. I said it before and I'll say it again.
you gotta admit this is cool!
I think around this time is where people really started to respect Deku. Before the anime came out, when Season 5 was coming out, manga Deku was being talked about like a folklorian legend. The anime-manga community started to recognize Deku's game. People were describing him as savage, and can you blame them? My dude was moving like a demon, going up against the strongest by himself at times, in a gargantuan-sized event with the top heroes at play. This isn't an ignorable feat. People started to recognize Deku's growth. It's also of note that the voice actors are giving a more grizzled, angry tone to Deku now. He's yelling and screaming a lot more. You can definitely tell that Justin Briner broke his voice during this arc. Even when he speaks normally, he sounds a lot raspier.
I'll put a stop to you up here in the air, using every ability I've got in my arsenal!
But a lot of people's complaints about the series shifted. I swear to God, this story just can't catch a break. Now a lot of the criticisms was toward atmosphere and animation. I will say, I don't think the animation has gotten worse. It really is just an atmosphere problem. I personally don't have too much of an issue with it, but I will admit it can definitely be better. But it really is about that damn blue sky! Everyone says they wish it was a dark and storming day. However, this is how it was in the manga, and it's for a few reasons, how it's in the bright and in the open, to show that a disaster like this can happen in the middle of the day at any time, and so that Shigaraki can be seen, so he can't be ignored. So many people just want everything to be dark and gloomy all the time. The setting doesn't always have to match what's going on in the scene. If anything, that just makes it more interesting. I almost like the comic booky cartoonishness of this deep blue sky. It is part of the story and it means something. If they just made it look a little different, it would have been so much better. It's just so saturated, almost like a blue screen. Alright, power growth time. Deku is now leveled up to 45%. Now that's what I'm talking about. And now he can almost fully use Black Whip. With the time skip between arcs, this makes sense. He needs this level up for the climax of the story. I love how when he uses a high percentage of One For All, his lightning becomes more blue and saturated. But seeing him use Black Whip to better potential is definitely cool to see. This dude is fully swinging around like Spider-Man now. And in the middle of battle, he gains 2 more quirks. Float, which was known to be coming, but the moment is so beautiful, coming in clutch at the perfect time. I love this comment from Gran Torino.
I know this power. It's chimerous.
And danger sense is alluded to, and like, come on Horikoshi, this is just shameless now. But I do like the things he does when using the power. The ways some villains have around it, and the times when it goes off. It's used almost as a storytelling device. Alright, it's costume analysis time, and now we have it's still costume Delta. Looking peak as usual. That's it.
Thursday, October 31st.
I was forced to leave UA because Shigaraki and all foreigners are after my quirk One For All.
But they will take it from me. I want them to take One For All from me. Cause I'm not Deku the hero anymore. I'm Deku the vigilante.
If you've had a glimpse into MHA at all, you've probably seen this panel. And you were probably like, holy shit, is that Deku? I have a glass painting I made of. I have a statue that I made recreating the moment. The final act begins panel is literally what got me to read the manga. I just had to know what was going on. The Dark Hero arc in My Hero Academia is my favorite in the series. I sat down and watched the whole thing one rewatch and it felt like an amazing movie. It is one of, if not the best anime arc I have ever experienced. And one of the reasons why is atmosphere. All the atmosphere you wanted from the first war arc, it's here tenfold. It's such a tone shift from the rest of the series, it feels like a different story, and I love it. Consume is Vigilante Deku's theme, I don't care. Simply put, you had to be there. After being in the hospital, and learning more about One For All, we learn that Deku is actually the perfect vessel for One For All, since having multiple quirks can cause an early death. Since both All Might and Deku were both quirkless, they're both perfect wielders. Since less quirkless people are showing up in society, and things are ramping up with All For One, Deku might be the final wielder of One For All, and might have to be the one who completes it by defeating All For One, also prompting the past users to awaken their quirks, at least before Mineta becomes the 10th wielder. Deku now has a communication and connection to the past users. They test to see if he's willing to kill Shigaraki. This is a great way of using the kill rule dilemma of superheroes. But during the battle, Deku saw the smallest glimpse of good in Shigaraki. The smallest glimmer. He understands that he might have to kill him, but he wants to save him if he can. That's what being being a hero is about. Using empathy and kindness to do good, to save people from danger. Whether that's danger that's being inflicted on them, or the one they're inflicting on others.
I want to save that little kid!
He even has a parallel to his first line in the show. So he leaves his school to go on a solo mission in the apocalyptic city to take down jailbreakers and track down Shigaraki. That is so fucking cool.
What?
Formerly known as the Prison Breakers arc, officially known as the Dark Hero arc, and most commonly known as the Vigilante arc. The arc actually gets misinterpreted a lot. Like, people think Deku's a villain in this arc, which is hilarious. Like, where did you get that from? The Vigilante arc is a beautiful visual and tonal representation of the dark and unhealthy side of Deku, and his character flaws. It takes inspiration from DC Comics and other comics with dark settings. It's almost noirish, with its washed out colors. Vigilante Deku is a very obvious reference to heroes like Batman, or the symbiote arc of Spider-Man. He wears his mask 70% of the arc. We rarely see his face. This is unheard of in this show. Seeing his face for 6 seasons, but not for this arc, is crazy. Something is different. A great way to show a character's growth is having them face the same challenge they did earlier in the story, and how differently they handle the situation. A rematch. Deku's hardest physical fight he's ever fought with Muscular left him in horrible shape. He barely won that fight. Here we are, 3 seasons later, Deku makes a grand entrance and whoops his ass, barely breaking a sweat, not a scratch on him. It's one of his coolest moments, and his dark, serious, calm demeanor adds so much to it.
No wonder the 4th user's danger sense kept going off.
Justin Briner adds such an unbothered confidence to Vigilante Deku. He's so cautious. He sounds so much older and matured. But he also has this almost brokenness to him. He feels scarred and aged. Also, so many people call this era Vigilante Deku when he's quite literally, by definition, the opposite of a vigilante. He is literally working with the top heroes. I guess when he goes off-grid, when the top heroes don't know where he is I guess technically vigilante. But still, he's in contact and literally has his hero license. The fight with Lady Nagant is intense. He uses new powers on the fly, showing how impressive his battle IQ is. And yet, his empathy still shines. After a heartbreaking departure from a father and son figure, this arc feels isolating. People start to fear Deku since he doesn't care about appearances. He goes on for weeks with no sleep, using Black Whip tendrils to keep him up, barely eaten, drinking, showered, straight fighting and walking for days on end. Deku isn't taking care of himself because he doesn't think of himself at all, only others. That's his character flaw being mutated into its worst. That's what this arc is about. Until finally, a piece of comfort comes to the rescue. The entire class comes to comfort him. It's so emotional seeing all of his friends try to comfort him, try to convince him to take a break, to let them help in the fight. But Deku is stubborn, wanting to take on this burden on his own. He doesn't want anyone else to get hurt on his journey. He fights his class, which is a very interesting pinup to see. And I love the circumstances. It doesn't feel out of nowhere. But we see his classmates, everyone he's helped along the way, come back to help him in some way. It might seem like a power of friendship moment, but it's deeper than that. Seeing each of his classmates say something to him to try to help, all coming to a point where they all work together just to catch up to him. It's something more. To me, this arc is an allegory for mental health. Class 1A literally gives him an intervention. They confront him and all say something to try to support him, to stop isolating himself and let them help him. It's heartwarming and heartaching at the same time. They're all here working together to help Deku. And if Deku actually got away, I mean, if he wasn't so exhausted and beat down, he would have easily beaten his class. But if he got away, he probably would have died trying to find Shigaraki and All for One. To me, this feels like symbolism for Horikoshi writing the story. Horikoshi has been known to be a hard worker, and at times I feel like I can see him putting himself onto Deku and his determination. But Horikoshi has gone on record saying he's had nightmares where his manga gets cancelled, and that drives him to live an unhealthy life, rushing the series. This shows in some of the chapter releases before the official volume release. Some of the art is actually unfinished. But this arc feels like Horikoshi had people in his life come in and help him, giving him the support he needed to finish the manga. The end of the arc just shows how warm and good it feels to have people by your side, rather than isolating yourself and being stubborn, doing it on your own. That's what makes this arc so good. It's not just the dark atmosphere and brooding aura. Deku's friends tell him he can still be a hero. All of them together now. They can defeat Tomo Shigaraki, sharing the burden together. That's actually something I wanted to talk about when it comes to this arc. Now that it's animated, this arc comes up a lot in discussion. A lot of people say it wasn't long enough. You know it's a good arc when the main complaint is that it's not long enough, which I agree. I actually do kind of wish we saw more of this tone. There's a lot of interesting things that could have been done, especially with the anime being able to do anime original things. I would have loved to see a full episode of Vigilante Deku taking on prison breakers. Like, look at this shark guy. That could have been cool. Oh, you mean... People are saying they wish Class 1A didn't stop him and he kept going on like this for the rest of the series. Are they stupid? Like I said before, if they didn't stop him, he would have died. I also feel like the consensus being thrown around is that the Vigilante arc is the only good part of the show, or how it saved the show, how it wasn't good before this, how Deku should have been like this the whole time, how Deku's only badass now. This shows me the priorities people have when watching a show, and how brain dead people can be. These people just want everything to be dark and gloomy, no soul or lightheartedness, just pure aura. Aura is a term that's been memed into a hole lately, but it still stands as an important point here. Everyone who says this stuff needs everything they watch to have aura, to be cool all the time. And that's just an exhausting way to view things. Deku having quote-unquote aura here is earned over time. That's storytelling. They don't really care about storytelling, however. They just want their protagonists to be sad and gloomy all the time, everything dark and washed out. I love this arc because it's a juxtaposition to the rest of the show. Not discrediting the rest of the show, but people act like the rest of the show is worthless compared to the Dark Hero arc, and that's just upsetting. These mindless sheep online only care if Deku has aura, and not about if his character is inspiring or means something, or if he's a good character. These people might claim to know what a good character is, but they seriously have no idea what they're talking about. Some people even wanted Deku to turn into a villain? Are you people stupid? Is all you care about a character is if they're cool? I mean, that's mostly what's going on in JJK. And this upsets me. This is all it took? Deku going dark and grungy for you people to actually like something? That's disgusting! Is that all you want in a story? Things to be all sad and dark and have aura all the time? How brain dead can you be? I understand that atmosphere is important, and the rest of the show didn't exactly have that much of a distinct atmosphere, making this arc stand out even more. But that isn't enough to discredit the rest of the show. I actually liked a lot of the aesthetics from the rest of the show. It felt cartoony and comic booky. It felt distinct. That's why so many people were surprised to see how short the arc is and what it was composed of, because these people didn't actually watch the show. They watched edits of it on TikTok. Anyway, as for power growth, Deku is still at 45%, unlocking 2 quirks. Smokescreen, love that they made it purple, and Fajin, whatever that means. I gotta be honest here, I'm not the biggest Fajin fan. I like it visually, but like, this is just One for All. I've always theorized that Fajin is part of what makes up the base of One for All, with the effect being similar, but I feel like it's just a little repetitive. Smokescreen is harmless though, and the way he uses it is great, but it's not just about the quirks, it's how they're used. The way Deku uses his quirks together is nothing short of genius. In the whole series, I think an overarching question of the show is when will Deku get 100%, and what will that look like? We got a bit of a preview with the fight with Overhaul, but Deku actually never fully gets to go 100%. But an amazingly creative way to do it is by combining the quirks, so he can achieve a pseudo 100%, and it's incredible. An incredible step up for the character's progression. It's truly wacky how far One for All has come in the series. As for Black Whip, in the Vigilante arc, it's so creepy and sad how Deku uses Black Whip as a way to keep him going, like 6 Kane. It genuinely makes him look terrifying. Speaking of looks, it's costume analysis time! This time we got a special one, Costume Epsilon. This costume's so fucking rad. This look stands out from the rest. A battle-damaged and withered version of Costume Delta, bringing back other elements from other costumes. This version of the suit is the anchor and center of the tone of this arc. The bright, saturated dark teal of Delta is now washed out and desaturated from wear and tear. Speaking of wear and tear, it's all over the suit, from entire arms, from some at the legs and ears. A closer look and you can see scuffs and damage all over. To be in place of his sleeves are a support item imported from from America to reduce the blow on Deku's arms. Mid-gauntlet, a reference to the first movie. But honestly, it looks more like bandages. In early times during the manga, people actually thought it was bandages. And for gloves, the costume beta gloves make a return. This makes Epsilon really feel thrown together. He's got his backpack on, which adds an almost angsty youth to it, again making it feel thrown together without much thought. And Gran Torino's cape, which is the chef's kiss that the costume needed. I cannot express how much aura this adds to the design. Adding all of these to the color palette all but blends together well. Some more needed red was added, and a giant smear of yellow to balance it out. I cannot understate how glad I am Bones decided to desaturate the colors to differentiate it from other costumes. Last but not least, how could I forget? Deku finally dons the mask. Not thrown on like before, though I wish we saw that more, but full on to not let villains recognize him. The amount of cool points this mask has is actually infinite. The bunny ears, the respirator, the dark eye holes with Deku's eyes shining through. It's not round like it is drawn sometimes. It's sharp and angular. The eyes seem to be a reference to other heroes like Spider-Man. The bunny ears are ripped and have dirt on them. And even with the mask off, the costume still looks cool. The costume lives up to the nickname, Vigilante. Seeing him in this arc swinging around is a feeling that cannot be understated. Keen-eyed viewers might realize that I only showed about half of the costume's appearance, and that's because there's actually 2 secret versions of this costume, but everyone seems to blend them together. The first one, right after the bomb when he leaves All Might, this costume has gotten increasingly destroyed. Basically everything's gotten worse by a little bit. Nothing's major, the mask and the rest of the costume has gotten more ripped, the respirator more cracked and bent, mid-gauntlets coming undone. He begins his transformation into what I like to call withered costume Epsilon. After weeks of fighting prison breakers, he's now beat and worn. At this point, Deku just looks goddamn terrifying. He can barely walk and talk. He looks like an entirely different character. Every rip on the suit is now more ripped. His rips have rips. He's drawn to be darker with heavier shading and more scuff lines and rips across the costume. It's so ripped up it almost looks like hair. He looks like the Grinch. The bunny ears are torn to shreds, now bigger and stringier, the eyes of the mask having large tears and looking like cracks. The mid-gauntlets now falling apart, undone and sticking out. The costume beta gloves are burnt and scorched, almost looking fully black at times. Belt patches torn to shreds, leg braces scuffed. His Iron Soul's holes have been teared to look like toes in of themselves. Brother is looking like Springtrap. I mean, there's definitely similarity, potential inspiration. His respirator has been chipped into looking like sharp teeth, Gran Torino's cape in tatters. Deku himself looks like shit, hair matted, probably from not showering, greasy and stinky probably. His face all beat up, dark circles around his eyes. He looks disgusting. Black whip tendrils making him look like a spider. He looks like a horror character now. It's tragic. This sweet, kind kid has turned into a monster, scaring away the citizens he's saving. You'd never guess he's a hero, since he's not taking care of himself. This is where his dream took him. I think it's so interesting to see this young, bright kid turn into this. And, by the way, is being portrayed as bad. I love this costume. Straight to number 2, baby. I've made 2 statues of this thing, and tried to make a custom for the amazing Yamaguchi figure. It was very hard, but it looks okay. But I do need to mention how much money action figure companies would make if they released a Vigilante Deku figure. I mean, people are absolutely fiending for this thing. They will tear apart their own figure just to make it look like this. It's honestly insane. If you haven't noticed by now, the show's kind of turned into a different direction. It's advancing into bigger and higher stakes. It's less of the high school slice of life drama, now with a bit of action, and now it's all out war. Some people might be thinking, what the hell happened to the plot? What happened to it being a bunch of hero high schoolers? But it's always been about Deku taking on the burden and legacy of One for All. It was always going to lead here. Honestly, the high school was just a thing he went through along the way. But it's interesting. I've barely talked about Deku's will to become a hero, not at least in a long time. That's because Season 1 was really setting up what he wanted to do, and now these past seasons is him actually doing it. His dream and goal has never ceased. If anything, this threat with All for One in Shigaraki has intensified his dream. To defeat them means to save everyone, and the future of human and hero kind. Deku is a symbol of hope for generations to come. The story has just become so much bigger. This leads us into Season 7, which personally I think is the best season in the show. Yet again, it's almost nuts to butts action. But before we can start the final war, we have a lot of setup and build up towards this huge event. 6 whole episodes of just getting ready. We have the heartbreaking reveal of Oyama becoming a traitor, which is an interesting place, none to say the least. I feel like Horikoshi kind of forgot about this looming threat, and he put it in right before things were coming to an end. But he used that reveal to transition into the and he's crying again. Okay, bitch. Imagine if you were a high schooler, and your class are all really close to each other, and you're fighting against a bunch of terrorists. And after all of that fighting against terrorists, one of your close friends is revealed to be one of them during trying times. Not to mention all that you've been through. Okay, that just sounds ridiculous when said out loud. But the UA Traitor arc yet again highlights Deku's sympathy and compassion. Instead of being angry at Aoyama, he lends his hand, saying there's still a way. They can all still be heroes. Hands are very important in MHA. They represent a lot of different things. They can be used to hurt and inflict harm, but lending or taking one's hand is an act to save or help someone, and I think that's beautiful. When the war starts, it starts. Everyone is here. There is a clear plan, so many different fights happening at the same time, so many finales of beautiful arcs. Shoto and his family, Katsuki and his pride, Ochako and her empathy. And you start to realize that Deku had an effect on all of them. His compassion has spread to all of these people. The plan goes south. Deku has been compromised and dragged into the wrong place. After a hilarious interaction with Toga,
don't be fan of me, brother. You got your rapist homo thug blackballed over there. What the hell are you talking about?
and a quick conversation that perfectly sets up the encounter with Ochako, Deku is off to go to UA, Coffin in the Sky, 120 miles away. Look at how fast he's going, it's insane! And if you didn't like the blue skies of Season 6, fuck you then. Where it rains, it pours. The atmosphere for this season is immaculate, taking some of the best parts of the Dark Hero arc and putting them into a wool, desaturating the colors, but also letting them stick out somehow, making everything look amazing. At the battle with Shigaraki, all hope is lost. All of the heroes are brutally beaten, but right before he can cause any more damage, Deku arrives, completely changing the power balance of the battle. Deku sees the dead body of his childhood best friend, the one he was just now able to form a good relationship with. He's overwhelmed with emotions and rage. His quirk takes over, but he, for lack of better terms, locks in. He will save Shigaraki. He will find the old Tenko Shimura inside his soul, even if he has to beat it out of him. Deku vs Shigaraki Round 2 is a clash of Titan powerhouses, and the moment I was waiting for years to be animated happened. Hearing Yusei run over Gear Shift made me want to stand up in my seat. Using the second user's quirk, Gear Shift, Deku completely gives Shigaraki a deserved overpowering. Seeing Shigaraki tear the hero's forces to shreds, we finally see him get the beatdown he deserves. Punches that have generations of justice behind them. Every user of One For All has a part to play, and avenge their time with the quirk. In just over a year, Deku has grown to become the strongest and most skilled with his power. It's amazing to see how far he's come. His friends and allies relying on him and acknowledging him for the powerhouse he is. They trust in him, knowing he'll do his best. We start to see previous villains stand up for Deku, again, showing his effect on people around him. Being a hero isn't just about beating the villain, it's about trying to make the best outcome come true, and that's everyone fighting for the safety of others. When it comes to powers, like I said, Deku's growth is just gargantuan. This is Deku's peak. This is the most powerful he's ever been. I'll be the one to say it. I'm Gearshift's biggest fan, but also biggest hater. With base One For All and Fajin, Gearshift being another power quirk that makes him fast just feels repetitive. However, like Fajin, I love its visuals and how it's used.
It's a One Piece reference. Horikoshi's just stealing One Piece.
I don't watch One Piece, so
I don't really care.
I love the blue glow he gets that surrounds his silhouette, and I love the sound and motion he does to turn the gear. The law of inertia basically means if something gets moved, it'll move until it stops, or its movement fades out. However, the way Gearshift works, with its changing of speeds, Deku can change his speed at any moment, meaning he can stop in the air without any other motion, meaning he can basically fly around and stop midair like he's in Gmod. But that also means he can fly around at crazy speeds, and punch at crazy strengths, and punch multiple times in just under a second. He's quite literally breaking the laws of reality. This is Deku at his strongest, using every ability he has at every point. One For All 45% 100%, shoot style, air force, black whip, float, danger sense, vagine, smokescreen, gear shift, full 100%, making him to be stated to be at 120% of his full power. This is the culmination of his power growth. This is it, the peak. Alright, it's costume analysis time! This time, it's the costume that's been most anticipated, Costume Zeta. Alright, after revisiting my previous video and totally watching it all the way through, I could admit I was kind of tweaking. As you may know, I have a history with this costume, making an entire 10-minute video on it. Go check it out. For the past 2 years, I've looked at this costume a lot, and it's the main suit for this long arc in Season 7, and even the 4th movie. My eyes have kind of just learned to accept it, but I will say, the colors still kind of clash 2 years later. There's just a lot going on. It's not very easy on the eyes. As for the changes, the new arm braces with mid-gauntlets were created, with the gold indent replacing the blue stripes on previous version, leading into the same Air Force gloves. I honestly like this development for the suit. The Gran Torino cape that looks better, with the respirator that's repaired, makes a return, which I think the cape is an amazing visual indicator of where the story has gone and the things we've left behind.
I don't think he should have, because I think in the Dark Hero arc, it represents his self-sacrifice, false bravery, his stubbornness, not to let his friends help, and when it came off, it represented him finally opening up and letting his friends help.
Now, for those damn gold stripes. The anime did a good job not making them look orange. These stripes are gold most of the time. However, on the teal base end, Horikoshi described this suit to be dark green, practically black. Is this him describing the original color of the costume from beta till now? Or is this a new upgrade? The costume is definitely drawn differently, it being a lot darker now. Nonetheless, the anime kept the same color as always, which is fine. I think it doesn't contrast the gold enough, but I think if they just made it slightly darker, it wouldn't have made enough of a difference. This guy gets it. Now, those blue knee pads. I like them. I actually think if they were red, it'd be too much red on the costume. But making them the teal color is just an interesting decision. Was it originally supposed to be a way to keep the original color intact when the whole suit was supposed to be darker? Who knows? But I think the anime version makes the knee pads look really good actually. Crazy to say, but the anime adaptation really exceeded my expectations and made me like the costume even more. I got the SH Figuarts figure, which is probably my most anticipated figure of all time and one of my favorite figures I have. It's sitting on my desk as I write the script and record this video. But something that I really like about this suit is how it looks during the gear shift fight. With the rain, the colors almost desaturate, along with gear shift's effect giving him a bluish hue. Deku consumes his rage, keeping it in his heart. This is shown by making his eyes emit energy, his mouth at times covered by his cape. All of these give him a distinct bluish look that blends all the colors together very well. It's honestly one of my favorite looks for the character. A shame the Black Whip scarf is only on screen for about 30 seconds before mysteriously disappearing. But after that last video, this costume means so much to me. Every time I see it, it's a very distinct feeling. Almost like, this guy again. I'm happy to know you guys wanted to see a follow-up to my opinion on this costume. Sorry that it's 24 pages into the video. No, I didn't crash out. I really learned to like this costume. Number 3. Just because it means something to me. Alright, looks like that's it. The anime is over. Looks like we gotta wait till Season 8 gets animated.
Oh lord, I'm just fucking with you.
I'm not waiting for that. I'll give whoever's watching this 10 seconds to go before I completely start tearing into the manga. Season 8 is about to be the craziest goddamn season. With Deku being overwhelmed, not being able to save All Might, Bakugo is revived, proving to the world the next generation is here to keep hope for the world intact. Deku's empathy for Shigaraki does not falter. He will save him. He will not kill Shigaraki, because he is a human like him. He has the power to kill him at any moment, to end all of this, but he doesn't. Whether that makes him insane, or makes him no longer look like a hero anymore, he will pursue, even without a clear plan. Compassion will take him far. One for all and all for one finally combine, causing Deku to be able to see why Shigaraki is the way he is. But before he can save him, all for one takes over the body, causing Deku to be blown away, arms ripped off. It's a dire state, but everyone from the final battle comes to help Deku. All of his friends, all of his allies, everyone he's helped and inspired. This is Deku's dream coming true. This is where the world sees him, where they root for him. Deku is a person who brings people together to fight for good. Everyone helps Deku form a path to defeat All for One, because he does his best, because he fights for them instead of himself. Instead of relying on a symbol like All Might, Deku makes everyone want to do their best. because he does his. He runs without thinking, risking his life to save another, and it inspires us to do the same. The meaning of Deku has transcended just the nickname or a hero name. It calls for all of us to do our best. A mere high school boy, his mother calling out to him to do his best, becoming the greatest hero's hero, surpassing him and becoming the greatest hero the world has ever known. This is Izuku Midoriya rising. Even though Deku couldn't save Shigaraki's life, even though he failed, he was able to save his soul, to preserve his heart and show him the light. And finally, the war is over. For power evolution, he continues to use and lose his quirks in genius ways, using them to their full potential. Deku's strategy in this fight is genuinely genius, but losing One For All is really tragic. It's sad to see it come to an end. Even if One For All has said to be more than just to defeat All For One, it would have been nice to see Deku keep at least the base power, but I understand the narrative implications it has to lose it. Alrighty, it's time for the final costume analysis. This time we have a couple. First we have a bonus. Not really a costume, but more just a look. Deku Overlay. God, he looks terrifying! This is a sort of sequel to Dark Deku in battle. Deku's shirt is blown off, with his costume in tatters again, but Deku spreads Black Whip throughout his body, puppeteering his body with tendrils. It covers his mouth and makes him look like a monster, thus being nicknamed by Horikoshi himself, Carnage Deku. He moves around like a spider, using his tendrils, showing the lengths Deku is willing to go, not caring about his appearance to save Shigaraki. His mouth even stretches the tendrils apart. He was even gonna have it on his tongue. Can't wait to see this animated. I forgot to rank it. Next up, Costume Origin. This is apparently technically a costume. After Overlay, Deku is comforted by a limited All Might t-shirt from a citizen that once criticized him. This shirt makes him look like the wannabe hero he once was. A youthful innocence to it, making him look like an aspiring little kid again. This costume is the most human Deku looks, as he classically runs into battle, his legs moving on their own, his scars to show the world that is watching the sacrifice a young boy is willing to commit to save. The name probably refers to how this is his origin point on how he became the world's greatest hero. To number 7 you go. Alright, it's after the big battle. Here's your reward. Open your hands up, son. That's a new costume for you Deku fans. I want you to have it.
I don't really want this.
I mean, I'll take it if you don't want it, Alan. You don't want that?
I mean, yep, sure, here,
thanks, man.
take it.
Put it right there.
If that's all right with you, Mr. Boss, if Charlie has it instead.
I mean, you already gave it to him, but it's your gift, man. Do whatever you want with it. You wanna... Yeah.
Next up, Costume Eda. I don't really like this costume. I would say this feels unnecessary, but I'd be lying. This is a really nice suit to have in the aftermath of the war. It feels aftermathy. Most of the costume is the same to Costume Zeta, the body and legs, keeping the gold stripes, but removing the iron soul. It's kind of like he's just wearing this temporarily. The lack of Gran Torino cape makes him look like he went through something, lost something. But the arms. The mid-gauntlets just look confusing, this weird thing at the elbow joint. Though it does kind of look like the elbow joints from earlier suits. But then there's the gloves. Look how they massacred my boy. These are just a mess. The gloves look pretty much the same, but the gauntlets look so much worse. The original did so much better at cutting up and dividing the suit, while this looks so out of place. They just don't look like they belong on the suit. They just look ugly. They're over-designed. They take everything nice and simple from the original and just throw it away. Overall though, it's a cute suit. It's whatever. Second to last, number 10. And finally, our last analysis, Costume Omega, which isn't an official name I don't think, but it still sounds cool. Here it is, the final suit. It's new, so I don't really know it very well, and to be frank, I can't really see it very well. Maybe I'll give a better analysis in the future when the anime comes out. I have mixed feelings on it being fully metal and robotic. I thought it was going to be a mix of fabric or leather and metal. However, I do like that every nook and cranny looks like it has a use. I love the theory that every function is to mimic the original quirks he had. I will admit he looks pretty damn cool in this cover art, but it's pretty over-designed. However, I feel like it's a little earned. It's to differentiate the other simpler fabric costume. I like the Iron Man ass suit up. Honestly, seeing the similarities between Deku and Iron Man make me want to scream like a girl at a boy band concert. For God's sake, the repulsor blasts mean everything to me. This is a sort of Costume Zeta, but we remove some parts. The Air Force gloves are toned down, but still look fairly good, and the red mid-gauntlets are replaced by cream-colored and teal-colored paneling. I love that they kept the cape. and it isn't a ragged piece of fabric anymore, but is now longer, still paying homage to Gran Torino. I'm glad that they didn't remove the best parts of the original costume. They're still here, but now mechified. I think one of the biggest motifs in the last 2 chapters is that things are more detailed, whether that be Horikoshi style developing, or the fact that things are more complicated now in adulthood, and things were simpler in our childhoods. Either way, this fits the motif, and continues to make Deku look good, and of course, cool as hell. I wish I could bite into this suit a lot more, but I just need more than 3 goddamn pictures. Again, maybe in a future video. And that's it for costume analyses. Deku's costume is something that's very important to me. I think I've probably said enough, but something I love about his evolution is just where you can see each upgrade has a function. How he learns more and more from his mistakes. How he makes his power his own, and how his design stays consistent and feels like a natural growth from the last. And this art just brings it all together. It really is the cherry on top. Makes it all feel worth it.
That's what I'm talking about. This shit means something to me, man.
Sorry that I might have gotten a little ahead of myself. I just wanted to get it in before you probably know.
It's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
The ending might be one of the most infamous things that has happened to the community. August 2nd, the first I don't remember, 2024. That's the day the ending leaks were posted, and we all saw the end of My Hero Academia. You've probably heard a lot of things about this ending, not good things. So much misinformation and misinterpreting. The epilogue was a great aftermath to the war, and cleared things up, giving finality to every story arc. I do have my problems with the ending. I feel some of it can feel a bit rushed, or things that needed to be touched on weren't touched on. Like for example, Deku's failure to really save Shigaraki's life. But I guess things don't always go the way you want. I honestly would have done some of it differently personally, and it needed some time to breathe, and things definitely needed to be shown that weren't. But I still believe it's a solid ending. So instead of going over the ending normally, I will address every shade thrown, every rumor, and debunk all of them. Deku's a McDonald's worker. This is just completely not true. McDonald's is never mentioned in the series, and Deku being a fast food worker is just completely made up and fabricated. This was a joke from a couple of fan arts from the fandom, asking where Deku might go after losing One for All. This small joke snowballed into actually being a consensus. Phrases like Deku went from gear shift to night shift is a common satirical comment left on a lot of posts to make fun of a status that Deku simply doesn't have. Thankfully, this is just a fake panel, and there's no such official art of him actually being a fast food. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's just a promotional piece. 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 It's just badly timed. Get that bag, Horikoshi. Get that bag. Deku's just a broke 9-to-5 worker. Yeah, and so is most of the population. Take it up with the economic system or something, I don't know. And the hours wouldn't even line up with him being a teacher, by the way. And if you didn't know, in Japan, being a teacher is a very respected position. Unlike here in the States, where teachers are disrespected and looked down upon at times, wrongfully so. Deku is by no means in a bad position. By the way, he works at the most prestigious and wealthy high schools in the world. He's making more money than you'll ever see. And I don't want to see you making fun of the employed when you're probably jobless. Get a job, little bro.
His friends and love interest abandoned him for 8 years. They didn't care about him.
This is one I can sort of see why people think this. but it's not true. This is because of a problem a lot of leaked chapters have, and that's mistranslation and misinterpretation. Nowhere is it said that Class 1A completely abandoned Deku. What actually happened is that Deku hasn't seen his classmates as often after they started working and had their own lives. In fact, they try to meet up, but their off time just has trouble lining up. He claims that he would be lying if he misses it all. High school and seeing his friends often, explaining the narration he's had across the whole story. This is a realistic depiction of adulthood. Not that the people claiming this would know, since they're probably not even out of middle school yet, but you see your friends less, since they're busy with work, and you're busy with your own life as well. That's the tragedy of adulthood. The ending is supposed to be sort of bittersweet. It's supposed to be like the first season's ups and downs, on a grander scale, instead of a problem that will lead Deku not getting into UA, with something like luck coming in at last second and giving Deku the boost towards his dream. It's a grander and realistic version of that hope might be lost for him becoming a pro hero, but luck, in the form of a reward for his heroism, comes in and lets him achieve his dream. His classmates didn't just start talking to him because a hero now. He's just able to be side by side with them since he can work with them now. It's common sense, guys.
He didn't get recognition or a statue.
It's ones like these where you really need to pay attention to the themes and messages of the story that it's trying to convey to the audience. This complaint can be completely silenced by the entirety of the stand-off. Deku is special because he doesn't need recognition or praise to be a hero. That's not what being a hero is about, or why a person is a hero. I mean, look at All Might. He used 50 years of income and money and fame to fund a mech suit of when he loses his quirk to keep working, but he doesn't get hate on that. But Deku saved the world not because he wanted a statue in his name or to be praised by people around. He saw a hurting boy and he wanted to help him to stop him from hurting others. And for God's sake, please read the chapter. He's recognized immediately off the street, recognized by news anchors across the world, and he was never forgotten. His influence has never left the world. Is a big statue really what your pea-brain needs to see the recognition Deku clearly isn't paying attention to or cares about? Deku's effect is bigger than you can imagine. And that's not culture or recognition. He's affected how people view helping others and heroism as a whole. He showed the world that we need to pay attention to those who are hurting and not rely on another hero or symbol to take care of the problem. If we can do that, we can all become the greatest of heroes. But there wasn't a statue, so I guess none of that means anything, right?
Deku didn't get with Ochako in the end.
It's clear Horikoshi was a little intimidated with the fandom to clearly show a specific love interest being confirmed. And I understand that with how strongly the fandom feels towards romance in the show. Alright, I should probably quickly talk about the shipping in the fandom. The shipping space in the My Hero Academia fandom is a hellscape. It is full of toxic 40-year-old book talk girly weirdos who want to dictate the love lives of fictional high schoolers. Though, like, this isn't anything special. Most fandoms are like this, to be honest. But the MHA fandom is most infamous over time for this. A lot of people will ship Deku and Ochako, and a lot of people think Deku is gay and ship him with Bakugo. I ship Deku and Ochako. However, I don't absolutely hate the idea of Deku and Bakugo. I think there's definitely a lot of mixed up feelings between the two over so long, and it not being abusive, I think it wouldn't be the worst ship ever. I think it could be potentially a lot of fun. I personally think Deku is straight, maybe bi, but honestly, I don't really care. But I am more of a Izocha shipper. Shipping can be fun, but over the span of almost a decade, with shipping wars have become toxic in the fandom, making the fandom to be looked at not very fondly. Anyway, it really concerns me on how Deku ending up with his love interest not being confirmed lowers his value as a person. It's described as Deku not getting with his bitch. That's awfully disrespectful to the character of Ochako. Is she not her own person in this story? Is she merely an accessory to Deku? Does Deku not ending up with a girl at the end of the story belittle him as a human being? Do you people really view Deku as lesser than you for not clearly being shown to have a romantic relationship? Does that really matter so much to you? Is that really where your priorities lie? I also wanted to mention I've seen comparisons to Deku and Okarun from Dandadan, but you never see Okarun getting this level of hate that Deku does. In my opinion, this is because he has a love interest, Momo, to make people see him differently. Since he has a girl that potentially likes him by his side 24/7, people don't look down on him as much. The fact that people need a love interest for a character to not see them as annoying is really sad to me. What the internet does with the fact of Deku not clearly getting with Ochako is nothing short of appalling. It is most certainly something they are all projecting. What people got out of this is that Deku is a cuckold, and Ochako is getting with someone else, whether that be Bakugo or a different character. The fact that this is the conclusion you come to says a lot less about Deku as a character or a person, and more about the people doing this as a person. Absolutely disgusting.
Hello, future awesome snowman here. I also wanted to add that it's clear Horikoshi didn't exactly care about including a romantic plot line in the story, and sort of just inserted it to appeal to audiences, but instead decided to weave it into the general story and message he wanted to convey, as he says in an interview. I guess that's just too complex for some of y'all. Go watch a romance anime, lil bro.
Deku didn't become a hero. I'm gonna go on a limb here and say you aren't Matt Murdock. So I'm going to kindly ask you to use the part of your body that you are using to watch this video. Your eyes. Please! Read! Open your eyes! You're asking when Deku becomes a pro hero at the end? I have the proof!
It's right here, huh?
Show it.
It's
Show
right,
it.
it's right here.
Show it.
It's right here.
Show it.
It's right there.
Another thing of note is that heroes are becoming a lot more obsolete. Deku and Ochaku genuinely decreased the showings of villains. Deku and Ochaku genuinely changed the world, decreasing the showing of villains. It took him this long to become a hero because it took that long to save up and build the suit that Deku wears.
Deku peaked in high school. He's powerless now.
Just grade my papers, bro, is something I hear a lot. This is a difficult one. Let's delve into how Deku actually lost One for All. Deku has always been known to be self-sacrificing, only caring about the safety of others, no matter the cost. When he realized the way to save Shigaraki is to transfer his power over to him just to learn what turmoil is going on in his heart, he was upset, not because of losing the great power he holds, and what he might lose because of it, but because that power was a gift from the hero he looks up to the most. He gives up his power with little hesitation. He goes on to change the world and how they view heroism. He goes on to become a great teacher at a great school, to inspire the next generation. He quite literally is in a position where he changed the world and continues to in the form of education. If that's not noble and deserves respect, I don't know what does. And the only thing you took away from all that is that he peaked in high school. That's what you're thinking about? How negative of a specimen do you have to be to think like that? And to think he's powerless, not thinking about all he did when he was quirkless. The point of the story is to show that heroism is not the power someone holds, but the will to sacrifice yourself for others. But I guess that doesn't matter to all of you. If all of you care about is how powerful someone is, then your priorities in a story are boring and uninteresting, and disgust me in a matter of fact. He got a terrible haircut. I thought it was kinda ugly at first, but then when I got used to it, I think it kinda looks rad. It represents his deformity he is willing to go through, and it was for surgery. It's temporary. Relax. One for all to all for nothing. Deku doesn't even become the #1 hero. Here it is, the big one. All for nothing is the one I hear too many times. All of the work, all of the training, the evolution of powers, the costume, all of this saying that Deku is the next All Might. Even I, a Deku fan, have to admit that all of this feels a little useless, right? Of course not. It was not all for nothing. It was all for something you people just can't comprehend with your brain-rotted short attention span. To understand what this was all for, you need to fundamentally understand Deku's character, which, luckily, I do. First, we need to delve into why Deku wants to become a hero. Deku doesn't want to become a hero for fame and glory that he obviously doesn't seem to care too much about. But Deku wants to become a hero like All Might, that can save everyone and can be relied on. He wants to guide the world into a better place, even if he doesn't realize he does. Inspiring people and generations to come, making them all feel safe. He doesn't care about the immense power that he holds with One for All. If he can save someone with it, even one person, that's all he cares about. After every battle, Deku loses something, or is at least ready to lose something, whether that be the function of his arms or himself. But One for All was just one of those things. And after he loses it, he is still considered a hero, though he does his hero work in a different way. He teaches students at the school he was educated in. He is inspiring generations to come, to fill the world with great heroes who look out for people. So no, he did not give up on his dream. It was not all for nothing, because Deku was able to achieve his dream, a dream that I don't think a lot of people understood. And Deku wasn't able to become the #1 hero, because that actually wasn't his dream. That's not what he said he was going to become. That quote in the beginning, he did not say #1. He said the world's greatest hero, which he in fact did. His effect has grown global. The world saw him save the world, and he inspired others to act like him, saving others. He caused a chain reaction over the world to stop so many catastrophes in the long run. But I don't think people really got that, because I don't think people really understand the story, like they don't with Deku's character. This brings me to the last portion of the video, talking about some of the deeper reasons why people might not like Deku. And this first one is called media illiteracy. Media illiteracy is a pandemic that has spread across the world the last few years, and it, quite frankly, is kind of scaring me as an artist who wants to make stuff like this. People just do not understand what they're reading or watching half the time nowadays. That's why when you hear a new season or the ending just came out of something, of a new show, and people are mad about it, and sometimes people get angry at something they don't understand. This is for a few reasons. People put expectations of what they want to happen onto the show, and are disappointed when they see the creator's interpretation of their own story unfold how they want it. So they get upset and say, this should have happened. Now, this is more tame of the reasons because I personally do this. There are things I do differently with the ending of MHA. Things I, as a writer myself, wish Horikoshi did, but I can't let myself get too mad at it. It's the creator's vision, and we all have to respect that. The next reason is just media illiteracy itself. People just genuinely watch something and do not understand the motivation or what the writer was trying to say with something. Even when it's right there, people just don't pay attention to what the author is clearly trying to say. The messages of heroism and self-sacrifice, the reasons of why Deku does what he does is right there, and people just misinterpret it. And I have to say, it's just stupidity. And the last, which disappoints me the most, is that people just don't actually watch or read something before acting like they know what they're talking about. Some of the people who criticize Deku probably haven't actually watched the show or read the manga in its entirety, so they make opinions on what clips, edits, or opinions they've heard and spread their own misinformed opinions they have. And those get stirred up and become common knowledge and general consensuses and affect other people's opinions, especially ones who are going to actually watch the show. This changes their expectations and taints the way they perceive the show before they even start it. Most of the people who criticized the ending didn't actually read it. They heard bullet points from someone else and complained about it when they actually don't know much about the topic. They feel hate because everyone else does. They spout hate because it's the general consensus. I've had so many people talk to me about the ending as the #1 Deku fan they know, asking me what I thought about it, and they were horribly misinformed by people online. I had to tell them what actually happened during the ending, and they went silent, kind of disappointed that what they wanted to hate on wasn't actually a thing. And it's really upsetting. Seeing the reactions of the ending, seeing the true colors of some of these people, their priorities and expectations for a character or story. The ending is very clear, and it's clear what Horikoshi wanted to say with it, but the only thing people took away from it is that Deku has no money, no girls, no friends, no power. By the way, Horikoshi released 2 little extra chapters to clear something up, almost like a response to all the backlash. Almost like a here, damn. This shows Deku happily in contact with his friends, and he does become a top hero, shooting to #4 in the matter of weeks. Deku, the one-for-all hero. And of course, we see more of Deku letting himself be happy, thinking of himself for once. He's able to be with Ochako, holding hands, and even then, an interviewer asked if they got together in the end, and Horikoshi gives the best response I could think of. Please read the manga, and leave it up to your imagination. People's priorities when consuming media is that they need the main character to have it all, and all figured out. The coolest person in the room constantly, when that's really shallow and uninteresting. Does the worth of a character really rely on how much money he has? If he has a romantic interest? If he has all of his friends beside him at all times? If he's the most powerful person? Women? Money? Power? Is that really all you care about? This leads into a deep-rooted reason why people might not like Deku, or look down on him. A deep-rooted problem in our society. Here it comes. Bear with me now. Toxic masculinity. And why you might prefer All Might instead of Deku. The concept of Deku being related to toxic masculinity was brought to my attention in this tweet. Deku's almost defiance of toxic masculinity kind of resonates with me as a person. In this world, men are expected to be these strong, nonchalant people. Tough guys with deep voices. Be a man. Alpha men, to have no feelings, to have power, to always be strong, even if you aren't on the inside. Femininity, emotion, and sensitivity is weakness. To never cry, to keep your feelings on the inside, to always remain sure of yourself, to always remain powerful, to always be cool. These expectations are also on male characters. So if something that isn't what these expectations live up to are in these characters, people look down on them, call them weak and sensitive, they're brushed aside, called annoying, called crybabies, called a bitch, called useless. Deku is an example of positive masculinity. He's caring, gentle, he cries, shows emotion, he's wimpy and insecure of himself, but he's a kind and inspiring hero who fights for others. But since he isn't big and buff and has a high-pitched dorky voice. He's looked at like he's, well, to use other people's words, a bitch. One of the biggest reasons why Deku is my favorite character is because I relate to him on a masculinity level. Because he never hides his emotions. He wears himself on his sleeve. What you see is what you get. That's how I've always lived my life. Because I never want to hide my emotions. I always want to show how I feel, to speak out when I feel something. He's not afraid to cry when he's sad or scared. And honestly, to be like Kirishima, I think that's a lot more strong and masculine than a lot of people. But toxic masculinity is an infection that has spread deep in the psyche of our society. We need to learn that sensitivity is not weakness. We don't always need to be the coolest person in the room. We don't always have to have aura. We don't always have to live up to the expectations that people have for us as a man. We don't always have to be a man. I grew up not having the pressures of being overly masculine forced on me. I'm willing to admit I'm not the manliest of men because I'm sensitive. I'm not strong. I'm weak and wimpy. But I'm willing to admit that. I'm strong in my own way. I strive to be gentle and kind to others. That's why I like Deku, because he's everything I hope to see in myself. In the final battle, at one point, Deku literally says he's been trying not to cry, to contain the emotions. It's almost like Horikoshi is responding to all the people calling Deku a crybaby. Deku is a character that realizes these expectations and tries his hardest to live up to them. Be strong, be a man, never cry. But you can't live up to those expectations. Even the show recognizes that Deku cries a lot. It's a deliberate character trait. It shows his sensitivities and how much he cares. This is going in the direction of a lot more of a wider political conversation where masculinity is being destroyed in movies and TV. But in my opinion, it's okay to show weakness. It's okay to not be cool or strong all the time. And if you look down on that, I don't like your way of thinking. This is where All Might comes in. And no, I'm not saying he's a toxic man. A lot of people might prefer him because he fits those expectations, while also falling under positive masculinity, thus making people not be annoyed by him. He's big and strong, his voice is deep and powerful. His presence reassures people, but he's also a kind hero. But this is all a front, a face to make people not worry. He makes the analogy of sucking in at the pool. This is a take on how many people want their characters, need their characters to be these tough guys, strong and cool all the time. But in reality, that's just an unrealistic expectation. I've heard so many people say, yeah, Deku's okay, but All Might is way cooler. Now don't get me wrong, All Might is cool, alright? But the story literally shows how there are two types of heroes. However, Deku surpasses All Might as a hero in the end, and here's why. In the beginning of the story, the world looks up to and relies on All Might, a symbol of peace. Whenever there's trouble, All Might is there to take care of the problem. This leads society to become more careless and more reliant on heroes. This is exactly the society that Tomura Shigaraki wants to destroy. All Might is courageous and strong, a charismatic facade that charms everyone. When Deku rushes into power, we're shown that he's a different type of hero. He doesn't always know if he's going to win. He worries, he's unsure of himself, his voice is high-pitched. He's small, he's human, he's like the rest of us. He cries, he yells when he's in pain, but he inspires us to be like him, to run in when there's danger. Deku, the one-for-all hero. His self-sacrifice makes a hero out of all of us. He teaches us to do better, to look out for one another. This is why I believe Deku is probably the greatest representation of heroism in all of fiction. The entire point of Deku's character and main core of who he is aligns with the definition of what a hero is. His traits of self-sacrifice and lack of self-worth are fundamentals of representing what a hero is, how he inspires every character trying to be a hero, even changing the world to do better. Deku is the greatest representation of heroism simply because the structure of his character is built on the definition of a hero. He gets compared a lot to Moomin Rider, which is a whole other conversation in of itself, but I understand the comparison. But people just seem to like Moomin Rider more because, yet again, Deku is a bitch. Moomin Rider is an almost gag side character, which is kind of what One Punch Man is, a comedy. His big scene is kind of a summary of Deku's whole character, and I do have to say it does it very well. However, I prefer Deku since he has the screen time to be fleshed out. People comparing the two and disrespecting one is very unfair. Both characters are amazing examples of heroism, but it really feels like people use any excuse to hate on Deku. It's kind of unknown why Deku doesn't try to become a hero without a quirk, even though it might be possible for him. Stain held his own without any superpower other than stunning his enemy. There's a vigilante, I forget his name, in My Hero Academia Vigilantes that fights without a quirk. And with how much he was keeping up with the rest of his class without a quirk, with training, seems like there could have been a chance. There are a few reasons for this. A, he wanted to do it legally. It's possible that by law you need a quirk to become a professional hero, or he just wouldn't be able to keep up in the exam. But to me, it's self-confidence. At a very young age, his mother, not wanting him to be hurt, told him he can't achieve his dream, along with so many other people in his life, including All Might himself. This led to Deku developing a low self-esteem and confidence. It's something I relate to in him. This interpretation of low self-esteem is something I see in myself a lot, even if I didn't suffer from harsh bullying or doubts from parental figures. A reason why I think Deku is hated on is, and this might sound like I'm a 5-year-old, is that everyone online are acting like a bunch of bullies. They see this character that cries a lot, has a big heart, a wimpy personality, a high-pitched voice, and when someone hates on them, they just can't help themselves but join in, to look down on him. It's not too different from the bullies he faces in the story. I guess what I'm trying to say is, you guys are just mean. The consensus that's already been put onto him from other people who don't understand the character starts to build onto expectations that people develop for him, and that turns into hate and annoyance. The online space is filled with agenda pushers and rage baiters and power scalers. It's just always so hard to see when this character that means so much to me is hated on everywhere I go. But thankfully, it feels as if people are realizing how great he is. I feel like I'm seeing so much more support for him the last few months, after what seems to be years of hate, even though that might just be my feed. Whether that be people starting to understand the character, or people hopping on a bandwagon because they saw one cool edit of him. People say he only turns cool in later seasons or when he's fighting like a madman, but his character, his design, and his motivation is what always made him feel cool to me the whole time. And I mean, God forbid a guy acts a little flamboyant. I guess another reason why I like him is just cause he's just a little guy sometimes. Look at him. And this juxtaposing his badass moments is just so interesting to me. I guess I have to answer basically the thesis of this video. Why I love this character and why I think he's so cool. It's not really something I can put into words, you know? It's kind of like a mental reaction I have when seeing anything related to him. Like a neuron activation. I guess it kind of started out with just drawing him a lot, and then realizing how well I knew his design. I was kind of like, huh, I really like this character. And then when I thought of him as my favorite character of all time, it just felt right. Deku inspires me to be empathetic and help others, to do my best in any circumstance, and to be strong in my own way. The way he's always himself, his low self-esteem, and his way of being stubborn all really resonate with me. His defiance to toxic masculinity, defining masculinity in his own way, connects with me as a person. He shows me how far my passion can take me. So many people have asked me why I like Deku, and what makes him so special to me. I could never put it into words. I always promised this video. There was so much I wanted to say, so much I could talk about, but I could never get it out of my mind and through my mouth. Every time someone asks me, I just kind of freeze up. This is a video I've been hyping up and meaning to make for years. What I needed to make. I hope this video can change how you view Deku or how you think of the character. Thank you for listening to me yap about my goat.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Oh, and here's the costume ranking.